All right, it's ready. I think it's ready. Are you ready to go to Small Tire Cash Days? DFW, Small Tire Cash Days, 200 to enter. Winner take all. I think second gets twice their money back. You ready to go? Let's load this puppy up. Head south. Or actually, no, because yeah, the motor's not in it. Actually, we're gonna head just right here because
We're gonna head west this way.
yeah, we're not. We're just gonna head to the west side of the shop. Yeah.
What'd you do?
This is the mess. What'd you do, Richard? They're all out. All they got's diesel. Little mystery motor is not so much a mystery anymore. It's scattered all over the shop now. We know exactly what it is. Really, I can't blame anyone. The only thing I can find, in the whole deal. First, let's back up. We had a thrust issue. The crankshaft was moving back and forth like 90 thousandths. We noticed that after putting a crank trigger on. I assumed, since it had low runs and low run time since we bought it, I assumed that it probably had this problem for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But after looking through everything in the motor, it's starting to match up a little differently. Of course, first thing everyone wants to do is blame the converter, and then I had even wilder ideas like, a ground issue or something, because I'd never had a full fiberglass, factory car. But so I was kind of worried about the grounds causing some sort of a issue eating at the bearing, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So what we have here is it's a 400 Chevrolet block, so it's a stock block 400 509 casting, 2-bolt main. Nothing super trick in the block. I mean, 4-1-65 bore, so it's about done really. Because I think 4-1-25 is stock, 35 would be 10 over, 55 would be 30 over, 65 would be 40 over. So, I mean, I don't know that I would want to push a stock 400 block to 60 over, but custom pistons, sure, we could go 70 over, 75, we could go 5 over here and there. Wouldn't be a big deal, but I don't know if we want to do custom pistons in this. I'm hoping we can hone this and save it, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I tried to find, the way I do everything, if you haven't already noticed, is very
Meticulous.
like a archaeologist, where you dig one piece out and you try and find the other piece and figure out what happened to this one piece before you just keep going. So it wasn't a straight push. So like if a converter is ballooning back here and it's pushing the crankshaft that way, it would be more of a straight push. This is definitely a sideways anti-goggling push. So it was pushing like this on the crankshaft, or actually it was pushing like this on the crankshaft. So and the way I came up with that is, if you look at these main bearings over here. Okay, so bearings are made of copper and they're coated. That's why they look gray. So the darker gray is more like the factory coating. Once you get down to the lighter gray, that's when you're starting to scrape the coating away. And then when you see the copper color, that's when you're all the way down to what the bearing is made of. So under normal running conditions, you want a thin film of oil on top of this bearing in between the crankshaft and the bearing. That's what the crankshaft rides on. It should never be metal to metal. Obviously, at some point, the crankshaft that's in here was touching here and here, which the only way that you could get something to do that, I give you evidence A here, is if you see what I'm saying? So I feel like the crankshaft was being pushed at an angle, and then you can see on this bearing, same thing, there and there. On this bearing, same thing, there and there. On this bearing, same thing, and there. And then the back bearing, though, because it's such a wide bearing and because it is the rear main and the thrust and everything, it doesn't really show a whole lot of cross loading, but you can see a little bit there. I do believe that the crankshaft was being pushed at an angle, obviously, because I keep saying that. But there was other issues going on here. So besides that, if you look at a main cap here, you see like this area here, it's pretty uniform, looks pretty normal, looks like a cast iron main cap. But then if you look over here at this one, it is beat up. Cast iron, if you rub it vigorously with other metal, it sloughs and it turns to almost like a powder, like a metal powder. and it will seize up and do all kinds of stuff. So that tells me that this has been rubbing on another piece of metal, and the only other piece of metal that's touching is the block. So this main cap on this side has been moving, walking. It's weird. You would think if it did it over here, it'd do it over here, but it's not really doing it over here. It's weird. It's only happening here. It's happening a little bit here, and not as bad here, but a little bit. So it's kind of normal for a little bit there too. It's kind of normal for main caps to do that, but usually I see it on both sides. So a little bit there. So I'm not really sure, other than it just being a 2-bolt main block. Maybe the tune-up was a little off at some point. Maybe it was detonating. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it was on the rev limiter at higher RPM for an extended period of time.
Who would ever do such a thing?
It's just a guess. It's a theory. It's a theory. But also, here's some other stuff here. So this isn't supposed to be here.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a DIY kind of thing?
No, this is your crankshaft's trying to leave the front door here.
Aftermarket.
Yeah, crankshaft was trying to leave. Definitely aftermarket. Definitely a field adjustment. The crank was trying to leave the front, and it was scraping against here. Now, it scraped against here so much that it scraped all the way around. But it's definitely deeper here than here. So it's same thing, and that's where the rub mark is on this bearing, and it is rubbed there too. Now this one, what, look at that. So you can see it's not touched at all over here. It was touching here. The crankshaft was, the throw of the crank or the chamfer, whatever, was touching here and grinding in on this side, not touching here. And more evidence that it's being pushed sideways there. This one didn't touch it. Weird. Some do, some don't. This one, oh yeah, it was hard on over here, and it pushed far enough that it actually went all the way around here, but not as bad on this side as it is on this side. Other little things that I noticed was this is the rear main. No modification done to the oiling on this deal. I don't know, in my opinion it's absolutely necessary. So usually you would go in here with a ball end mill or on a grinder, and you would flow all this out and smooth and make it all radius into here, and take out some of the short turn there, and then where this intersects the other oil hole here, you would grind all that. Basically you're trying to, this is where the oil pump bolts on. And then you're trying to get the oil to flow into the block better. And so usually there's a lot of work that needs to go into that, and it hasn't been done. Doesn't look like the oil pump has had much work done either, which it needs. Someone had some trouble getting the oil pump pickup tube onto the oil filter there. So, but all that stuff will be handled. It did have ARP rod bolts. Now, I did notice though that someone started to do it. Someone started to do some race car work here. So on a small block Chevrolet, these are your oil drains, and they're usually a bunch of casting flash around here, and it doesn't allow the oil to drain back very fast or efficiently. And the drain back in the head is here. It drains down here, drain back here, drains down here. So usually it's a good idea to grind these out to full size, and then kind of make an easier transition. It's weird. They ground that out, they smoothed this over, they smoothed this over, ground this out, but then they didn't actually make it any easier for the, like this still goes up. Like, I don't know, they didn't really make it easier for the oil to go against the back of the block and stay off the crankshaft. That's kind of, you know, one way to make extra power, but they did start. I mean, they did a little bit here in the front too, so I don't know. They didn't deburr the whole block though, which is weird. They didn't get rid of all the casting flash. They did a little bit. I don't know. Maybe that was all they wanted to do. Maybe it was only a stage 1 deal, you know. Maybe they were like, you want the stage 3? And they're like, no, I can't afford that. But this is a Corvette, man. I don't know what they used on the head gasket here, but man, it's crazy. It's different for sure. It's got a really rough surface, so we're probably going to go to MLS gasket, in which case we're going to want to smooth that as smooth as we can get it. MLS means multi-layer steel, so you really need to have a really smooth surface. And you can see even under the dirt here, you can see the cut marks in the block. See those cuts, little lines? That's the RA, or the surface density, whatever, you know, kind of like we do with when we're looking at streets to race on. But for a MLS gasket, you want that to be really super smooth. So we'll probably have the deck surface touched, get it smooth. I don't know if they still do it. Back in the day, we always put pipe plugs in these holes to get the water to come up through the outside first. That was a long time ago. Who knows? They may not do that. They may have found that that's not necessary. There's your crank walk traces. There's the bad one. So this is where the main cap was walking. What's weird is the top side of the main bearings look pretty good. Not near as much weird side loading stuff. You got a little bit of copper on the edges from where the crankshaft was just pushing forward. And then you can see here where it's ground, the crank ground all the way into the block there. That, I mean, it ground the crap out of that. Did a little bit of damage here grinding. It might have touched there a little bit. Same thing on this one, but for the most part, all of the damage to the bearings were done on the main cap side. So that's another reason why I think that maybe it's not due to clearances of the mains. It's not due to the line hone of the block or anything like that. I think it's due to something behind the engine pushing the crankshaft at an angle. For those of you that are on our Seeker Squirrel deal, you're probably already figuring out what I did here. As I'm talking about this, you're probably remembering something that I had said and fixed, but I'll get to that. So I think that the mains are probably going to be okay. I'm going to mic those out in a second, make sure, but I think the mains are probably going to be okay. Just need to address the main cap walking around. I'm not used to running a small block Chevrolet, so I'm used to having dowels in your main caps. Like Pontiac has a dowel, and it registers the cap really good. You know, I'm not trying to say that Pontiacs are the pillar of reliability or anything, because Lord knows, you know, the small block Chevrolet has lots of credits to its name. This little deal, it wasn't making a ton of power. You know, I mean, it was making good power for what we were doing with it, for what it was, you know, and it was fun or whatever. And I'm not trying to say that people who make, you know, 600 horsepower, 500 horsepower, I'm not trying to say you don't make a ton of power, but I mean, enough power to be walking main caps, you know what I mean? That seems like maybe something else. Either way, we'll see if Gerald can shine some light on that. Moving forward though, we're probably going to reuse the block. We're probably going to reuse the main caps. We're just going to build this thing again. I mean, it's got ARP main studs and stuff, you know. I mean, it's a pretty standard little 400 piece. It's a nice little build, and it did make power, so I feel like we're going to put this deal back together. We're going to fix all the little issues that we can find, and there were a ton. I did note here just not too long ago, the cam bearing there. That cam bearing doesn't look so hot. That one back there looks brand new. Like literally like it wasn't touched. Probably because this one doesn't have the right clearance. But we will we usually put new cam bearings and everything anyway because it's so cheap. That's good insurance. Normally I go through and polish that all out. I mean, dude, there's so much casting flash in this deal that are stress risers. So like if you did try and make a bunch of power with this thing, if you ever did rattle it, like that right there, that's literally sand from when they cast the block. That's sand that's trapped. Because when they cast these deals, it's a sand cast. So it's crazy to think that they left all that casting flash in there. You know, I usually go through and I'll deburr all the edges everywhere. I'll even go through deburr the mains. I'll go down, grind all that casting flash stuff out, smooth everything over to where you keep the oil as best you can off the crankshaft, blah, blah, blah. There's a bunch of super old tricks out there. here's the rest of our scattered mystery motor and some findings to report.
You find out what that cam is?
Yeah, for the fun part. This is going to be probably the only fun part. I did some researching on these numbers here. So 298, 304, 308, 298, 308, ULX. It says read. It says SPA, SBA, SRA, and then dash 6A2, and then J3178. So here's what I come up with. Read, as in read camshafts.
I thought you were going to say Reed Timmer.
Timmer! Now, read camshafts is who made the cam, okay? SRA means it's their solid roller, I don't know what the A stands for. So 298, 308, UBX. 298 is the intake lobe. 308 is the exhaust lobe. Over here it says dash 6A2, which I'm going to say means 106 lobe separation, advanced 2 degrees. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that this deal has 2 degrees of advanced built into the camshaft, 106 lobe separation, advanced 2 degrees. So the intake center line is advanced 2 degrees. After coming up with those numbers, it also would appear that it's a small base circle cam, which is nice because it has to clear the giant rods that are in this thing.
No,
so
that were.
6-inch rods. So follow me.
Oh, I didn't know they were going on a field trip.
Yeah, field trip time. This was how it was installed. The keyway was on the roundhouse top, which means it's advanced in the timing chain. But these are the numbers on the end of the cam. SRA 298, 308, ULX, read, dash 682. So what I came up with is the 682 I think means 106 lobe separation, ground advanced 2 degrees. Okay? And then the SRA 298 lobe, because it did say SRA. SRA 298 intake lobe, if you look on the Google machine and you look for old Reed stuff, I came up with 264 at 50. So duration is 264 at 50 thousandths lift. It's a 450 lobe lift. This is the intake lobe. And which with a 165 rocker comes out to 743 lift, which is pretty big. The 308 ULX is the exhaust lobe, which is 273 at 50. It's a 417 lobe lift. So with a 165 rocker comes out to 688. What else I found was search on the Yellow Bullet machine. Reed cams. John Reed killed in a plane crash around 2007, 8-ish. This camshaft has to be from well before 2007 because that would have been the end of Reed cams. At least the end of John Reed of Reed cams. R.I.P. for sure. Yeah. Holy crap. It was a cool company though, because if you look it up on Google, you can find their old catalogs, and it was all custom cams. So it wasn't you just picked one off the shelf. You picked your lobe. So it had all their intake lobes and all their exhaust lobes. Kind of like an engine builder nowadays picks their cams from comp cams or something. This is how the customer was able to get their cams. So they would pick their intake lobe, pick their exhaust lobe, and then, get it however they wanted it, which was really cool. But damn, the camshaft in this motor is from at least the mid to early 2000s, if not older. That's an old cam. Yeah. I wonder how many Reed cams are out there still thumping in race cars.
I wonder how many ears have been blessed by this cam in the last 20
a lot,
years.
I bet. But so everybody want to know what camshaft is in it because it sounded so good. There you go. Now, if you look on Yellow Bullet, there is a few posts where guys say that the man who worked for Reed that did all the cams started his own company and does camshafts now, and he was a whiz with the Reed cam stuff. So might look around if that's what you're looking for. We're going to try and reuse this camshaft in this motor because it did work well. It's got a set of Brodix -11 cylinder heads.
Wow.
Believe it or not, they have some serious port work done to them.
Naturally.
Yeah, and they're port matched to a 1206 gasket. They're actually a little bigger than a 1206. But what I found on these, check this out. If you look right there.
1925. Those are antique.
No, that's a number. Look above that. Above that. See that?
Ron's porting.
Serve. Ron's porting service. I have done some research on this, and from what I was told back in the day, about the same time as this camshaft was made, Ron's porting service had a really good port program for the Dash 11s, or really good for the time anyway. And he did a lot of rounding around stuff, and they're still around. They're still doing cylinder heads, and I believe this 1925 number. I believe that I can call Ron's porting service and give them that number, and they'll be able to give me flow sheets from these heads and what the cross-sectional areas are and what the pinch and all that stuff is. So, I mean,
Nice.
it's kind of cool.
I mean,
Now,
they're antique.
They are extremely old. Eric Weingartner at Weingartner Racing took one look at them and said, "Those are old." And I was like, "Yeah, no joke." And he's like, "No, like really old." He said that Brodix nowadays puts a dowel hole in the front of their heads or in the ends of their heads for the machine that holds them. And these don't have that. So he was like, "Those are old." I think Ron did the manifold as well. Someone did the manifold. It's had a lot of port work done to it as well. And it was left with a, I don't want to say a burr finish because it's kind of, looks like it was tried to get polished at some point. But this is the cool part. We're going to clean these heads up, do a valve job. Eric's going to come down. Like I said, he's doing the manifold on the 23-degree monster motor over there. And he's going to look at these and tell us if we need to do anything to them. He may take them and touch them up if it needs it. But we're probably going to end up going back with this camshaft because tradition, right?
Because it's rowdy.
Yeah, it's a little rowdy guy. And then we're going to stick with that manifold, and we're going to put this deal back together basically just like it was so that we can finally figure out how fast we can make this car with this combination. It's all about optimizing the combo. Sometimes you run into a hiccup like a thrust bearing issue and you have to optimize your optimization. Now, when I pulled the oil pan off, I noticed there was a bunch of little pieces of metal, little pointy pieces of metal, like Riff Raff's teeth, It looked like somebody had punched Riff Raff in the face and his teeth fell out in the oil pan. Everything looked fine until I got the timing chain pulled. I mean,
no wonder your timing was a little...
Yeah, I was having weird issues with that timing thing, right? So I'm guessing that the thrust pushing the crankshaft out from the bottom.
You see that guy?
No.
Holy shit.
Holy moly.
Wow.
He's like, "What? 3 cams? What?" He's like, "I haven't seen one of those in 20 years, man."
He's like, these things are $300 on eBay, right?
Oh, he did land right on that white car, didn't he? He was, "Holy crap, I haven't seen one in person." So when the crankshaft was being pushed out of the motor, it was also pushing on the chain, which I believe was rolling the back of it until it ripped all those pretty little teeth off. So good thing it was a double roller. Otherwise, they probably would have known about this problem a long time ago. Also, it really ruined the chain. Or it's just because it's a cheap chain. I've done a lot of timing chain talk and timing chain stuff, content with timing chains. I've had a lot to do with timing chains. My GTO and my Chromod had a timing chain, and we went into the 3s with a timing chain. So we were pushing the limits of a timing chain. But this is not the timing chain you want. This one says KOM on it. KOM Japan. Now, normally things from Japan are very good quality. Like my micrometer here, normally things from Japan are very good. This is not. I would recommend, if you're doing a motor, if you have anything to do with the timing chain, whether it's single roller or double roller, I would recommend getting a very well German-made Iwiss chain. IWISS. Look them up. Good stuff. When you put one in your hand, you can feel it. When you roll it, it doesn't do this, where it's like staying crooked and bent and doesn't want to go where it's supposed to go. A lot of new double roller timing chains, they come out of the box like this, but not an Iwiss. You get an Iwiss, most people, if you call them, you say, hey, I need that timing chain. Will you open that up, make sure it's an Iwas chain? They act like you're crazy or ridiculous, but not if you call Butler Performance. If you call Butler Performance, they know. They know Iwas. We definitely need a new double roller timing chain set, which I've had the best look in the past out of a billet Rollmaster with the Torrington bearing. That's probably what we'll try to find for this deal. What you will see though is this is a cast gear and it didn't live. This could be cast, but it may be billet. I don't know, but it lived just fine. It looks great. It's not missing anything. This is a Scat crankshaft, 375 stroke for a 6-inch rod and a 400 block. If you see this right here, this is the thrust washer. So in the block, you have a thrust bearing. It sits in here, and this surface keeps the crankshaft from walking forward and backwards. That bearing sitting in here, pushing against this surface and this surface, it just, you got about 8 to 10, 12 thousandths clearance back and forth, and that just keeps it riding right there where it's supposed to. In this case though, I believe that the surface on the crankshaft plus the side loading of the drivetrain caused this to wear to paper thin. It's like a hat. Like it's supposed to be all the way with a chamfer here, but I mean you can put the pointer all the way up in there. It's bad. So it's paper thin. I was going to have the crankshaft shop weld that up, regrind it down. After measuring that thickness, I'm at, in the thinnest part, I'm at about 19 thousandths. It's not a good candidate for welding up. So, good thing is these crankshafts are about 250 bucks on Summit. So, we are going to, well, we've already ordered one. We're waiting on a crankshaft to come in, and then we'll be good to go. The problem with these crankshafts are they're 250 bucks. The mains were fine, I believe, because you saw those. Other than being pushed sideways, the main journals seemed fine. The rods, on the other hand, not so fine. We had lots of, I mean, the rod bearings look like hammered dog shit. I mean, I'm telling you, I've ran my motor in my race car at 50 pounds of boost, 60 pounds of boost. We ran all of No Prep Kings. We ran 2-3 seasons on the street, and when we pull bearings out of my motor, they look like brand new. And this deal is making 600 horsepower, and these deals are bait. I mean, junk. Look at this one. I mean, this one I'm pretty sure was spinning, or was very close to spinning. And they don't have any tension left in them either. These bearings are usually built with a little bit of eccentric clearancing, whatever, so they're wider here, so that when it's making power and it's pulling here and here, it doesn't push the bearing into the crankshaft and wear down, but it still did. So it lost all of that bearing, lost all of its tang or whatever, it lost all of its spring. So
Tang?
yeah.
Like the drink?
Yeah, poon time. My word is poon time. So the bearing lost all of its shit rigidity there. So I mean, you can just see it was not happy. I mean, good God. Yeah, it's bad. You can see it. It's just bad. So I believe after measuring the rods and the crankshaft, the problem is in the rod journals on the crankshaft. This is 0.5 thousandths out of round on the rod journals. It has a taper, almost a 1 thou taper, and 0.5 thou out of round. So problems. Not to mention it was already too loose, or too tight, sorry. So usually when we get these crankshafts like this, it's been a long time since I've ran one of these, but the last one that I ran of these cast Chinese cranks, I mean, every time we pulled one out of the box, we just went ahead and cut it 10. Just had it cut 10-10, and then that way you know it's round, you know it's right, you know the tolerance is right, and you can tell the crankshaft shop to grind it on the low, and they'll put 3.5 thou in it or whatever you want. It's cheap insurance, and the surfaces are just like, it's not smooth, it's not micro polished. I mean, it's just not, it's not good. But it's $250. You know, what do you expect? Figured this out. So it says 4375. That means 400 mains, 375 stroke. Yeah, buddy. We will junk this deal make a lamppost or something out of it, or a doorstop, or a trophy or something. As far as the rods and pistons go, looks like an eagle rod or scat, whatever you want to call it. It's a Chinese H-beam rod. It does have ARP 8740 rod bolts, so not the best, but not the worst. Maybe the worst. I don't know. At least they got somebody's name on them. At least they don't just say Chac on them.
Yeah.
So the pistons, though, something weird in the pistons. I haven't figured that out yet either. You got, so this is the left side of the motor, driver's side, so it's 1, 3, 5, 7. This is the passenger side, 2, 4, 6, 8. If you look, this piston here, nice, flat surface. This one has a circle milled out of it. This one, same thing. This one, same daggone thing. But then over here, nope, no, no, yes. So they're completely opposites. I don't know if this is a balance job, if this is them trying to match the weight of the rods, but if this is the weight of the rods, it doesn't really make sense because this rod is lighter than this rod, so you would think you'd want this one. Anyway, but it's opposite. So this one, good. This one, circle cut, and they're on opposite sides. Then you got circle, 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 solid, solid, solid. Not really sure what's going on there. It's a nice piston. It's a flat top, 2-valve relief deal. I did find a part number on them. 98765.
Is that real?
Is what real?
98765.
Yeah, what's wrong? Oh, 98765. That's not the part number.
Suspicious.
That's super suspicious. Who makes their part number 98765?
I bet one of their part numbers is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sounds like something an idiot would put on his luggage. This one 987. No, this one 96765. Maybe that wasn't an 8. Maybe that was a 6. Oh, my finger's stuck. Help! I got it. No big deal. Crisis averted. Oh, it is a 6. My bad. 96765 is the part number. Sorry, I'm not good with numbers or reading math. This piston here. So the rest of them, I think I could reuse a little hone job on the block, and I think we'll be okay. The skirts look pretty. They don't look bad.
Skirt, skirt.
Skirt, skirt. Mama. That one don't look bad. But this one.
Ouch.
That's a no good. That's a no good. I'm guessing at some point in this little child's life, it was dry fired, or dry ran, or something blocked off an oil passage or something. This thing, I don't know what happened there, but not happy. Now, the other thing that's weird is that cylinder, the threads of the spark plug are gone. Maybe they nuked a spark plug. Maybe they had some nitrous on this deal at one time, melted a spark plug, melted some stuff in here, and then tried to pull the spark plug out and it took the threads with it. I don't know. Or it just had a bunch of shit in the cylinder. Look at that. See all that shit on top? That's probably what it was. It was probably sitting for a while. Had a bunch of shit in there. I don't know. But either way, I will attempt to clean this up and see where we measure, but we may need a piston for that hole.
Just one.
Good thing is they're off the shelf. That one's that bad. And then also, this bearing is the worst. So I'm guessing number 7 is making more power than the rest of them. It had just some stock like type head gaskets on it here, like, you know what I mean? Nothing. I mean, they're performance Velcros, I guess, but like, you know, nothing super fancy. But I mean, they look great. Like maybe they just put them on before they sold it. I don't know. But I mean, if you look at the head, like, I mean, it was sealed up good. You know, it's not blowed out anywhere. Like you can see, nice solid sealing area. You know, they might have had a little bit of something there, but I think that's just from the gasket. But yeah, I mean, you know, other than the thrust issue and maybe a number 7 issue, everything else looks about the way that thing sounded, which was amazing. So hopefully though, I'm gonna mic the pistons, clean the skirts up, mic the pistons and the bore, make sure that we can run a hone down through there, and I'll put these pistons right back in it with a new crankshaft. We'll have it balanced. New bearings, obviously.
I have seen some comments on the last 2 videos where you were showing the problems and stuff, you know, of people saying, get rid of this dumpy old small block and put put a LS in it and twin turbo it and put Jackie's old LS in it and stop playing with those silly small block Chevys and.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about that for just a second. You know me, I can rant, buddy. If we get started, I'll go. But there are, I don't know, 960 billion YouTube channels. 180 million of them are automotive channels, and 179.99 million of those are LS-based automotive channels, where they just toss LS motors together and throw them in a car and they take them out and get beat. I mean, go racing. We have done that. We've proven that we know how to build LSs. We've proven I know how to tune them. You know how to drive them. We've had world records with LSs. But what I will tell you is, if this was just a racing channel, we would be trying to find the quickest thing we could put in the car to go racing so that we are at the race, right?
Right.
But we've done that. I did that. I was on a racing show where you had to do that every week for 10 years, okay?
Mm-hmm.
6 of those years, you were with me for every pass of that.
Mm-hmm.
6 of the 10, more than not, you were there. That's not what this is about. It's not what this channel is about. This isn't the Midwest Street Racing channel. This isn't the Big Chief Go Street Racing every weekend channel. This isn't the put whatever you got in it to go racing channel. No, like, we don't make a living racing this car.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason to find whatever motor we can put in it and go racing. There's no and we've raced LSs, and we feel that while they are inexpensive and easy to build and all that, and they make decent horsepower on the dyno, we've just yet to see the ET reflect what we want to see, especially out of a nitrous combination. So we feel like the small block Chevrolet is just fine, if not even superior, and definitely with a nitrous combination. The parts are dirt cheap. You can find them anywhere. They've been around for 150 years. Like, it makes no sense for us to, we've got 3 or 4 bad boy LS motors over there, but we'll be going backwards when we start spraying nitrous. A very fast, efficient 14-degree cylinder head with nitrous is not what we want to deal with, especially not on the street and something that you're going to beat on as much as we beat on. So we want to be able to spray a lot of nitrous, and we feel like what we're doing is the best for that. Also, I don't know that I'll ever have another turbo car. If you're sticking around waiting on me to build a turbo car, man, I don't know. I've got one of the baddest twin turbo cars ever been built, and I've been turbo since, oh God, I don't even know, 10, 15 years I've been turbo. So I've done that, I've been there, and I just feel like for what we are doing right now, for small tire,
Mm-hmm.
legit street or for small tire street or legit no prep, gangster no prep, backwards no prep, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
For what we're doing, I don't feel like a turbo combination has an advantage. I feel like I honestly, at the bottom of my heart, and with every piece of drag racing experience, I know for a fact that the small block nitrous combination has the advantage in this type of racing. If given the opportunity, I will prove that to everybody that's watching. But unfortunately, this isn't an LS motor, so it's not something you can throw together in 2 days and go racing with a bunch of stock stuff and then go out there and get your ass kicked when you turn the plate on, because it makes good power on motor, but it doesn't do worth a shit on nitrous,
Mm-hmm.
or it's broke before you get there. Like, that's not, you got to burn up, put pistons in it before you can get to the race. That's not what we do here. What we do is we spend the time in the shop, we make it right. When we go to the race, we race.
Right.
We're not chasing problems. We're not burning shit up. We're not getting our asses kicked over and over again, wondering what's going on. Like, that's not how we do things. So we do this. This is Midwest Street Cars. This is us. This is our channel. This is what we do. We're not gonna, if we were at a race and we noticed a thrust bearing issue and it was a bunch of money to win and we had a competitive car, we'd run it. We'd be okay with breaking it at that point because the risk is worth the reward. But when we're just out testing on motor, there's no reason, so.
Clearly, if you've watched any of our videos, we don't just go buy parts. Like,
no, we don't.
We try to
throw
make
parts at
things
stuff.
work. Yeah.
We optimize what we have. That's what we do. That's who I am. I've tuned
That's
some of
not
the
it.
baddest cars around with people that had no budget. You know, they bought whatever I told them to buy and put it on the car. And I'm telling you, I didn't get any satisfaction making them number one qualifier, winning the race. Like, that doesn't do it for me. You know what I mean? What does it for me is knowing that I built it here. There was a problem, I solved it. I figured out why it had a problem. I figured out how to fix the problem, and I put it together, and it was faster than it was before, or it was faster than the next guy could do it. That's what I do. That's what the two we are. So this Midwest Street Cars, that's what I'm going to do. This car, if it came with an LS, that's what we'd be. See, that's the other thing. People don't understand. We don't talk about this very much because it's a mixed opinion. It's a mixed bag, and we don't care. We support everybody's opinion. So if you have a car that you put an LS motor in, we support it. We tune it for you. We help you with it. We'll work on it. We'll sell you parts for it. We're down. We're cool with whatever. But for our own stuff, and this is just our own stuff. Please do not take this the wrong way. But for our stuff, we run the motor that came in a car. What I do this for, and what I love this for, is to do it with what I got. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm going to do. That's what we're doing here. And did we miss a weekend of racing because of it? Yeah, we sure did. We really did. And that sucks. And I'm not going to lie to you. Paying the lock-in on a race that you knew you should have been at is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Not because of the money, just because I wasn't there. You know what I mean? Just because we weren't there. It sucks. But at the same time, there'll be a race later this year. There'll be a race next week. There'll be a race the week after that. There's going to be plenty more races to make, and when we make them, we'll be ready. You know, the turbo thing, I know that people just think I'm hating, but I really honestly believe that the turbo combination holds no advantage in small tire street or legit no prep racing. That's the other thing, is I've got one of the baddest 23-degree small block Chevrolets in this shop that's ever been built. Ever in the history of the whole wide world since Columbus landed here. Like, I got one of the baddest 23-degree small blocks in this shop right now, and it was meant for this Corvette. But the chassis isn't ready yet. The car isn't ready yet. You know, it may be not quite ready for that motor yet. That's what's going to happen eventually. The thing that got us so pumped up is seeing and listening and reading all your comments and seeing how focused you guys are on what we're doing with this car. That showed us that we're doing the right thing with this car. That showed us that what we love about this car and what we love about this stuff and optimizing our combo and working with what we got, you know, we love that you guys love that. And so we're more pumped on that right now than we ever have been. You know what I mean? Like, that to me is one of the coolest parts, knowing that we're excited about something. And usually, like with the TV show or other stuff, when we were excited about something, the show wasn't as excited about it, or they didn't think that anyone else would be excited about it, so we weren't really allowed to do much. Now we're excited about something and you guys are excited about something. That tells me we're on the right track here. So we're going to keep going. We're going to keep optimizing this combo, and we're going to see how fast we can make this setup go. Are we going to put the other motor in the car at some point? Well, yeah. You know what I mean? At some point, this stuff ain't going to do it. We're going to have the other motor ready for this deal. But it's not going to have, you know, a tunnel ram and 2 Dominators and shit on it, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a regular single carburetor small block Chevrolet like everything else. So we're going to leave the 2 carburetors and a tunnel ram and all that. We're going to leave that to Jackie's Cadillac.
Yeah, he's the fancy boy.
So in the meantime, Ruga, you know what I mean? That's what we're doing here. Now, when it comes to all that other stuff, we got that thing over there, you know what I mean? If we need to go 3 seconds, we got that. If we need to go to cash days on the street with the Frig and the Studebaker, all the fastest, you know, street race guys out right now, like, then that's what we're going to do.
There's something like that?
Well, you know, I'm just saying, like, yeah, like, hypothetically, if in the next few weeks there was some big tire street race thing going on with, you know, that Studebaker and all the guys that I wanted to race, hypothetically, if that was a thing, you know,
Mr. Crow fits those rules perfectly.
That's what Mr. Crow's about. It's going to give us a little time, because we're going to hypothetically get ready in case that thing happens. Yeah, in case there's giant Norsemen on the street here, around here somewhere, you know. So just in case. While we're doing that for the next couple of weeks, this deal here will be ready to go. we'll probably shove it on the dyno over at Gerald's, and you guys will cringe at the low horsepower numbers compared to all the LS fancy boys online, and then we can compare time slips, and you know, the LS guys can fall out of their chair. While the motor's out, Twan is helping me correct the alignment issues from the cross member and the transmission and engine, and it was in the Corvette, the way that it was all installed. So we're going to correct those issues while it's out, so we don't have this problem again. We never have to worry about trashing a $250 crank again. And
yeah, we can't be blowing money like that.
But hopefully you guys are hypothetically ready for us to go and race everybody. Baddest of the bad. Well, bye.